Welcome back to The Point of View. It's 2-in-1 tonight. We started with Charles Reku Brobo. We call him Tarzan on the fuel prices and what can be done. I have on the Zoom now, joined us by video conference, Alex Mould, who is the former many things. He was running MPA in the earlier part of the previous administration. Then he also ran GMPC. He's a banker. I don't know if he worked on Wall Street. I'll ask him. Mr. Alex Mould, thanks for joining us. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you, Bennett?
I'm well. Did you do anything on Wall Street in your previous life?
Well, not actually on the street, but yes, I worked with Union Bank of Switzerland. That was Midtown. Wall Street is downtown.
Wow. So I haven't done any study on how our economy has performed under finance people as against pure economics people. But the current finance minister clearly worked on Wall Street and is having problems with the markets. I'm sure that must be quite something for you observing from outside.
No, it's not strange that this is happening. I mean, we spoke about it 2 years ago. We spoke about it last year. And the markets react according to what they believe the fundamentals are doing. And also, if there is credibility coming from the finance minister in particular. So this is no surprise. I mean, during the COVID, our bond price dropped to early 80s. The yield was about 11. After COVID, that was somewhere July, August, September 2020. The market started believing that we had put things in place and that we were on the track to redemption and that we had the support of the IMF, the World Bank, the EU, and various donors were still giving us some money to help us with the pandemic. The pandemic was a shock to all countries. And those countries that they believed, especially the IMF and the World Bank, they gave more money to, and Ghana was one of the recipients because we sold a very good story and we put in place some good things to dampen the effect of COVID on the population, on businesses. So we were on the right track. We did it a little late, but some of us asked that we spent about 2% of GDP, immediately so that the SMEs don't die. So that helped us till 2021. In 2021, of course, we had the election coming up, and when the budget was read, there were challenges that the market did not believe. The market did not believe we could grow our revenue by 32%. And as such, immediately they started downgrading because it required us to get a lot of money from e-levy, get some money from refinancing our amortized debt. And they didn't see how we were going to refinance that debt in the capital markets. So that was one of the challenges we had.
First thought to you was going to the capital markets initially a bad idea? I think apart from Banredu in the last term of Kufuor, the person who's gone to the capital markets before this government came in was Mr. Tekpe and the NDC government. I think he went 4 times, where he did a couple of Eurobonds. Then Mr. Oforiatta has been there a few times, probably 6 or 7. I'm told even up to 8. Looking at all that you know, for a small country like Ghana with the resource dependency we have, was going to the bond market part of the mistake, or it was really using the monies that came in, which is really the issue?
Going to the bond market is not a mistake. I mean, you have a few people who will lend to you for that tenor. Remember, they were trying to manage the the tenor risk. We're trying to extend the tenor of our debt so that we don't have too much debt amortized in the short period. Amortized means paying down the principal in the short period. So the idea was, can we go into the markets? Can we also locally extend the tenor of our debt from 5 years to 10 years to 15 years and create a yield curve so that, we have different maturities on the yield curve, which are actively traded. The same with the Eurobonds. If we have all short-term debt and we're using that for long-term expenditure and long-term planning, that is what we call a mismatch. You're mismatching your debt and you're mismatching what you are actually investing in. So the question is, you asked, is going to the capital markets, was it wrong? No, going to the capital markets was not wrong. It was wrong for the quantity that we went for, because most of the capital market debt really should be used in infrastructure and in things that would actually help the GDP of the country immediately. That means it will help investors also invest in the country. You don't want to use money that you borrow for consumption, then especially the long-term borrowing. Long-term borrowing is used mainly for capital-intensive work. And that is why we think that the use of the funds that they raised was wrong.
The two responses we've seen, the first has been from the president himself. He says, let's free ourselves from negative effects of rating agencies. Akufo-Addo to African leaders. This was today, February 7. Then yesterday, the finance ministry said that they were puzzled by the poor ratings of Moody's and then I think Fitch as well. And so let me just read that. The president, Nana Akufo-Addo, says recent ratings by international rating agencies are affecting cost and access to capital markets by African countries. He therefore is urging African countries to find a way to shield themselves from suffering the repercussions of rating agencies. He was speaking as AU champion for financial institutions and said the funding challenges of African countries have been made worse due to the work of rating agencies and further affected by COVID pandemic. Then Bloomberg has a story by Ekodonto today that says Ghana slumps Moody's after debt rating cut further into junk. And the summary of the story is that Ghana is gravely concerned about the rating cut. And then it says the downgrade suggests institutional bias against African economies. Let's deal with the first one. The president's comments to Africa and other African countries, basically saying it's not just Ghana. They are giving poor ratings post-COVID to most African countries, and it's not fair. And then on the Ghana side as well, finance ministry is also not happy with what Moody's did, and basically saying that looking at the numbers they have, this is not fair. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it's two-faced because this is a government that championed rating agencies because we were going to the capital markets. This is a government that, relied on the rating agencies for us to go to the capital markets in 2017, 2018. And I don't understand the about turn right now. And one thing you don't do in finance, especially in raising money in the world, is you don't go against the rating agencies, one. You don't go against the IMF and the World Bank, two. I mean, you can take them on in private, but you don't take them on internationally. Immediately, the investors who rely on these rating agencies believe that there is something wrong and you're covering something up, because the rating agencies did have a negative view on your rating prior to this rating. And all they are saying is that if they have a negative view of your rating, you have to do everything in your in your corner to be able to convince them that you're turning things around. But how are you turning things around when you all of a sudden are expecting your revenue to increase 32%? What have you done that is going to increase revenue? Now, you said you're going to change the benchmark. You've reversed that. How are you going to raise the money? E-levy is not passing. So people are skeptical about your ability to deliver. It's your performance that the capital markets and the rating agencies are downgrading. They are downgrading your credibility on your ability to perform as you had suggested. And that is what we are seeing in the market. However, let me say something. International investors, these are the big investors who hold our bonds. They don't wait for the rating agencies to come and tell them how bad things are. They have floors of analysts, floors of analysts doing analysis, speaking to various people like the credit analysts of Standard Chartered Bank, Stanbic, people on the ground here. They send people into the country, just like the IMF and the World Bank, but they send people very early. And they speak to different entities in the country and see whether what you said, the credibility of what you have been saying. And if that doesn't happen, they pick a call and they tell their credit analysts over there that we think we need to get out of Ghana. Ghana is too risky. So over the months, there have been a lot of credit reports by international banks that, like Standard Chartered Bank, like Stanbic, big banks that follow Africa and big banks that have they have investors that work with them to understand what is going in the industry. And these banks have all been saying negative things about Ghana, that we won't be able to meet our budget. Now, there are rumors that we did not meet our budget last year, and there were a lot of people who were asked to prepay 2022 taxes. I don't know if that is true, but this is what the credit analysts are saying. So the number we made in 2021 included revenue that was supposed to be gotten in 2022. So they have discounted your delivery of 2021 numbers. Your 2022 numbers are showing that your growth is going to be 32% of your revenue, and most of that growth is supposed to come from domestic taxes and e-levy and import duties, and you've reversed some of these. So I think there's a question mark on the credibility of your ability to deliver on the performance that you have put out there, and that is the problem. So the bonds started getting downgraded earlier in December. People started selling the bonds, and as such, the price of the bonds started dropping, and it dropped from the early 90s to mid 70s, and right now it's around 72% of what it was. What that means is that when you issue a bond, the last bond we issued in February 2020 was issued at par. That means it costs 100. Now that bond today costs 70 to 72. That means anybody who bought that bond at 100 has lost 30% of that bond. That is a massive downgrade, if there's anything. So the Fitch and Moody's they lag investors. Investors, they're in the kitchen. They know what's cooking. You in the restaurant, the Moody's and Fitch are sitting on the restaurant table. These guys are in the kitchen, so they know exactly what's happening. And we got alerted that this was happening, and it reflected exactly what most of the credit analysts in the banks were saying. And these are the credit analysts that investors pay money to inform them about what is going on in the various countries. So they'll say short Ghana, that means sell Ghana, buy Zimbabwe or buy Zambia. Short Egypt, that means sell part of Egypt and move your money to this area. So emerging markets, and Ghana is part of the emerging markets, you have portfolio managers who have a chunk of their portfolio reserved for emerging markets. Now, if they need to keep the emerging markets, the question is, where should they be putting their money? Should they be putting their money in an area where, there's going to be improvement? And if there's going to be improvement, then they will put their money in those countries. So right now, Ghana is on a sell on every analyst.
So I hear you. You're saying that
get out of Ghana.
Alex, you're saying that it's not the rating agencies we should blame. They are reflecting what the investors are actually feeling. Fair enough. My question to you then is, so what do we do? Don't forget, you are a leading member of the opposition party. So when people listen to you, it's well and good to say, yes, what is happening, I told you so. But what is the real alternative in terms of what do you offer? Because you've said you don't go against the rating agencies, you don't go against IMF, you don't go against the World Bank. So essentially, you're going to deal with the same structure, the same level of influence from global Western capital, which some people feel is the real problem. That if Ghana is supposed to really move out of these structural challenges, we need a new economic model. Do you have that?
I don't agree with that. We're in a global village, and your sovereign bonds are being invested in U.S. treasuries, for example. So Ghana is buying U.S. Why, I don't know, but Ghana is buying U.S. U.S., the investors there may be buying Ghana. You are always going to have some relationship with investors. And these investors are the banks, financial institutions, the big financial institutions that raise letters of credit for us or have corresponding banking with our banks here. You're going to have the World Bank, the IMF. You're going to have bilateral countries lending money to Ghana for specific projects. And you're going to have the capital markets. So there's an array of financing you can do. There is nothing really wrong with financing. What is wrong is your use of the money and your discipline. The reason why I believe many people don't want to be involved with the IMF is because they don't want discipline. So soon we are going to have to meet with all our lenders, especially the bilaterals, because we may need some more money or we may need to pay them down their debt when the debt is due. And if we can't meet that, we have to meet with them to reschedule the debt or arrange for lower interest rates or something. We have to arrange for there has to be an agreement with all the bilaterals. These are the countries that lend to us. We also have to talk to the World Bank, for the projects that the World Bank is financing. And if they do not believe you are disciplined, especially when you have in your office of the president, you're going to spend almost 5 billion Ghana cedis on manifesto promises, on projects and things that don't make any real sense economically. They would like to see that you bring in a performance improvement plan to tell them how you are also going to be disciplined and how you're going to manage the economy.
We'll take a break. When I come back, we'll find out which of the areas can be cut. And then we've also seen earlier in the day, you can call him the leader of the NDC, sending out a press release, which is very seriously titled, "The Ticking Time is Ticking for the Crisis-Ridden Ghanaian Economy." We'll look at that too. My guest is Alex Mould. We're talking Ghana's economy. Stay with us. Welcome back to The Point of View. Tonight we're doing a double header. Started with Tarzan, Charles Reku-Brobe, on the fuel prices. It predicts it could reach 8 cedis per litre for fuel by end of March. He also thinks government should share the windfall with Ghanaians and reduce fuel prices. Alex Mould is a former CEO of MPA, also former CEO of GMPC, a leading member of the NDC. Himself is a financial analyst and a banker. And he says the government must cut waste and that what the Standard & Poor's in this world are saying, these Moody's and all these rating agencies, are reflections of what has already happened. It's not like predictive in any way. So the government must rather find a way of dealing with its own ways. Let me read a statement former President John Mahama issued earlier today. I'll put some on the screen. It says, "Time is ticking for the crisis-ridden Ghanaian economy" by John Dramani Mahama. And just a few paragraphs. There is no dispute that the Ghanaian economy is in deep crisis, a crisis marked by a huge budget deficit, an unsustainable public debt, rising inflation, a rapidly depreciating currency, ever-rising cost of living, and a loss of confidence by both domestic and international investor communities. The effects of these have been severe hardships and sufferings for the people of Ghana, especially those within vulnerable groups. As a result of the horrendous low point we've now reached, it's very clear that urgent intervention is required to avert a total collapse of the economy. Yet President Akufo-Addo and the head of his economic management team rather appallingly remain nonchalant in the face of this serious crisis and have limited their response to the imposition of very harsh and regressive tax measures, one of which is the e-levy, which has been roundly rejected by the people of Ghana. Like one drowning and yet clutching at mere straws to stay afloat, this government has banked all its hope on the e-levy, which, given the gravity and depth of the problems that have beset our economy, is neither adequate nor viable as a sustainable response to the crisis. In the face of this serious crisis, government has also resorted to unhelpful political posturing over suggestions on how to stem the downward spiral, ensure discipline, and help the economy recover. It is painfully obvious that beyond the ill-conceived e-levy, the Akufo-Addo administration has no viable or credible plan of action to get us out of this current economic doldrum into which they've plunged us. Meanwhile, there can be collective buy-in from the Ghanaian people, development partners, and investor community that are being ignored. Then he lists a few things about the COVID program. But let me go to the conclusion. He says, the government must swallow what is left of its pride and create a platform for urgent and constructive dialogue among stakeholders with a view to fashioning out a robust set of policy responses to the economic challenges before we get to the point of no return. We in the NDC stand prepared to aid in the salvage effort because inaction is not an option in the face of disaster. The clock is ticking very fast and the time to act is now. And he signs it in cantonment. Mr. Alex Mould, so
yes,
this suggests that if, for example, the government did a Senchi-type conversation to say we want homegrown solutions from all parties, the NDC may say, Mr. Alex Mould, go and represent us. What will be like 3 urgent things you would suggest the government does to stem this tide? So this is based on the assumption I've given. Former President Mahama says your party is prepared to help, right? So on that premise, give me 3 headline things they should do now to save the economy.
Well, the first one is to manage your expenditure. The expenditure is what is within your control, your direct control. So cut the fat and rank them and prioritize where you're going to spend the money, because you see our revenue, the domestic tax revenue, it trickles in. So if you have a budget of 120 billion spent and you have 70 billion coming in, that 70 billion, maybe only 20% is coming in the first quarter, 25% in the second quarter, 25% in the third quarter, and the fourth quarter another 30% or so. So you have to pace yourself on exactly how you're going to spend this. But the most important thing is you need a credit line, like any business. You need a credit line, and you need your banks, you need your financial institutions to be able to be there for you. And for them to be there for you, they need credibility. They need to be sure that you're doing the right things. Right now, your credibility is very low. And the only way you can bring that credibility up is go to a very credit-worthy institution to hold your hands and go to your various creditors and ask them for extended tenors, reduce interest rates for a couple of years, to minimize your debt service so that you can have room to operate. And also you need new money. So right now, without that credibility, nobody's going to listen to you. And that is why I keep on saying that it is not that somebody wants you to go to the IMF, because that is the institution that gives you the credit derivative, that gives you the credibility. But it's when you will go to them. And the earlier, the better, because you want to recover over time. So cut down your expenditure and get your credit lines open, and manage your local interest rates, because right now interest rates are going up. The new issuance they did for 6 years is 21.75. If they do another one next month, unless they bully the banks, it's going to go above 22%. That means that your interest rates are moving up. Another area we all know is the fuel. Now,
so hold on,
my
just
good
to be
old
clear,
boss.
before you get to the fuel, you said cut expenditure, go to the IMF, manage interest rates. But you haven't told me which specific item of expenditure. Are you talking free SHS? Are you talking school feeding program? Are you talking NAPCO? What expenditure do you think they should cut?
No, free SHS is a no. Don't cut free SHS. That one you're gonna cause confusion in the country. But manage it. Make sure that the fat that goes into spending at free SHS. You actually cut down the fat as well, because there is a lot of fat in many transactions in government. Government is a procurement gig as well. So let's make sure that we are serious about procurement in this country, reducing the expenditure that we have in many areas. And that's why I want to talk about fuel, because one of the big items is fuel consumption. Everybody spends a lot of money on fuel. So government has to find a way to curb the fuel price. Once you curb the fuel price, transportation prices will be curbed, and also inflation will stop, because all goods, once transportation goes up, all goods go up. So let's try as much as possible to bring down the fuel price, or reduce the volatility of the price of fuel, because it's just going one way and it's going up. And there's a joke about break the 8, and everybody believes that fuel is going to break the 8 before anybody can break any 8. The thing about fuel as well is that the exchange rate follows very closely. So like Tarzan said, use some of the windfall you're getting to reduce some of the taxes that you've put on fuel. Also, I think that government needs to start thinking about hedging the crude oil sales as well, because if the prices we're enjoying right now, if we're enjoying $90 oil, if we can even hedge at $80 for the next 2 years, Ghana is reassured that we're not going to have a challenge if oil prices drop. So we should reduce that. And one of the areas that I think they can also do with the fuel price is the exchange rate. Bank of Ghana is issuing exchange rates at six cedis right now, but the market is about 650, 670. And this is where the BDCs are buying. And the BDC buy forward. That means they buy 3 months ahead. And the BDC forward price is about seven cedis. So they're using 7 cedis in the calculation of the pump price, which for me, it's causing us double problems. So Bank of Ghana, which receives about $12 billion every year, can allocate $4 billion of that specifically for the importation of petroleum products, because we import about $4 billion to $5 billion depending on the oil price of petroleum products into this country. And if we can have that channel specifically, we can reduce the pump price by about 30 to 50 pesos immediately per liter.
So let me get that straight. I know that the Bank of Ghana tries to shore up the cedi, or the government tries to shore up the cedi in a way by supplying foreign currency. You're saying that the rate at which BDCs buy the finished product, the rate they use is different from the rate the Bank of Ghana announces? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely, because they go to their commercial banks and they buy forwards there. Bank of Ghana from time to time does some forwards, but there is no real management of fuel imports price, purchase of fuel imports by Bank of Ghana and the commercial banks. And I think that should be brought back. We used to do this in the early 2010s, where Bank of Ghana would make sure that there's some foreign exchange available for the purchase of oil. And that was how we were able to manage the price
So the Bank of Ghana
down.
should supply dollars to the BDCs? And is it at the spot rate or futures rate? What rate should they use?
Well, the futures rate for the Bank of Ghana, their spot rate is about 6. So their futures rate would be about 6.2, 6.3. That is manageable. But when your spot rate is 6.6 at the commercial bank, then their futures will be more like 6.97 or 7, which is quite high. So if Bank of Ghana is managing our foreign exchange, Bank of Ghana sells its foreign exchange to the commercial banks. The commercial banks then decide if they are going to use that foreign exchange for MTN, remittances to their parent countries, Nestle dividend remittances, Stanchart dividend remittances, or fuel imports, which I think is a big part of our economy. We should have a dedicated amount from Bank of Ghana to these commercial banks specifically for fuel imports.
All right.
There has been abuse in the past, and that is why I think it was stopped. But it should be brought back so that we bring down the fuel prices. And last time, I believe that the Deputy Minister of Energy said on Randy Abe's Good Morning Ghana show that he will take it up. When I mentioned it, he said he will take it up with the Ministry of Finance because it has to be Ministry of Finance, Bank of Ghana together.
Thank you very much, Alex Mould. We've been speaking to former CEO of GNPC, former CEO of MPA, member of the NDC, Alex Mould, about Ghana's economy and what can be done. Earlier on, we spoke to Charles Rekro-Brobe, who essentially runs a think tank called GIPO, but he's a former CEO of many things, speaking to us on the fuel prices and what can be done. Thank you for watching. We hope you've learned something new. Coming up next is the Business Dashboard. Stay with us on CTTV.